Hello, and thank you for joining me. As usual, our Bible readings for today are posted on the Benefice website. And if you haven't already done so, you might like to read the passages from Revelation and Matthew before listening to this. I'll begin with a few verses from John's first epistle. See what love the Father has given us, that we should be called children of God. And that is what we are. Beloved, we are God's children now. What we will be has not yet been revealed. What we do know is this: when he is revealed, we will be like him, for we will see him as he is. And all who have this hope in him purify themselves, just as he is pure. Today we celebrate both All Souls and All Saints. It's a time of year when we look back at our loved ones who are no longer with us, and also at the blessed communion of the saints who have walked the path before us, whose lives have, to a greater or lesser extent, shaped the path which we now walk and which lies before us. I think it's inevitable that the memories of those who have gone before should remind us of our own mortality. And then perhaps we wonder about that path which lies ahead, beyond the grave. For as John writes, what we will be has yet to be revealed. But we are offered glimpses in our readings today. Revelation gives us a vision of those who have come out of the great ordeal, who have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. An image which might be rather closer to reality than is comfortable for some of those at the moment who live their lives mostly in PPE, so that they can care for the sick. And then there's Matthew 5. It's probably one of the first Bible passages we become familiar with. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him. Then he began to speak and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. When do you first remember hearing those words? I would say for me it goes right back to my first school, which I left when I was not much more than 7. And I don't think that memory is fabricated. But the feelings that are associated with that memory, I have to say, are mixed. I'm sure whichever teacher it was that talked to us meant their words should come across as warm and cosy for our young minds. But my 7-year-old mind saw the Beatitudes as a pick list. If you wanted the kingdom of heaven, you needed to be poor in spirit. If you wanted to inherit the earth, then you needed to be meek. To see God, pick pure in heart, and so on. I could never quite work out which one I should go for. And anyway, were they exclusive? Or could you play pick and mix like the sweeties in the local Woolies, where if you wanted, you can pick one of each, or you could have as many orange creams as your pocket money would stretch to. Whatever, it left me with a sense of unease when faced with the Beatitudes, which I don't think I've ever fully overcome. And I have to say that there are still parts of that passage from Matthew, the one we know in total as the Sermon on the Mount, which I find challenging. But I think maybe now I do get at least part through a glass darkly, I should say, of what Jesus was aiming at with the Beatitudes. And it's absolutely the opposite of a pick list. Latterly, as I read the words in the Gospel spoken by Jesus, I more and more try to hear his voice as he says them, to picture the scene, the tone of his voice, the expression on the faces of the listeners. So today, when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him. I picture Jesus sitting just below the summit, facing down the slope as far as possible to see and be seen. The 12, the inner circle, are grouped around him, and round them, in ever-widening arcs, the people sit. How far could he be heard that day? How far did his voice carry? I don't know. Probably not that far. But the word spread. Through word of mouth, through written word, through modern media, across the world and down the centuries, the words have spread through space and time. Members of the Anglican Communion will today be reading those words in whatever language they know, the world over, just as we are doing today. And just as they did on that hillside, the words draw us together. As Jesus sits looking out at the crowds, he looks into the faces, he sees into the hearts, he senses the gifts, the hopes and the pains that people bring inside them, whether they are aware of them or not. And his heart responds to each. Whatever they bring, he sees it as a blessing, and he responds in kind. Those few sentences capture the essence of the human spirit, all that is good in humankind. I've heard the Beatitudes described as a thumbnail sketch of Jesus himself, of the Word made flesh, of humanity brought to perfection. Like Martin Luther King on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, I don't believe the words were planned. I believe that this was Jesus responding in the moment, giving expression to his love for his fellow humans, to God's love for his creation. This is no pick list. Rather, every one of us can find within Jesus' words the one thing that we need to hear in that place, in that moment. So, rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. Jesus' words that day may have been a response to the people he saw before him, but they are for all humanity, for all time. They are an assurance of the vision John gives us in Revelation, when we will hunger no more and thirst no more. The sun will not strike us, nor any scorching heat. For the Lamb at the centre of the throne will be our shepherd, and he will guide us to the springs of the water of life. And God will wipe every tear from our eyes. Amen.